Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 9 a.m. meditation service. We welcome you to be with us and take this time, this hour, to connect with the divine within ourselves and recognize that you can leave the world outside of this hour, all the stresses, all of the turbulent times and the news and the life away from this, and remember that we can always lean into Spirit's love and connect with this peaceful, loving vibration that moves in and through us and divinely guides us to that which is being called for our personal journey right now. Also a collective journey right now. And we start our service by chanting. They say to sing is to pray twice. And so Norman and I will be the call, and then you guys will be the response with Louie and Larry. So we invite you to sing and put yourself in a room in your house where you feel free enough just to sing. And singing just moves you. You can't think about the troubles of life when you're singing because your whole being is in a vibrational connection with something greater, something called love.
My heart. Make of my life a melody of love. God is in all of life. We are all one. Open my mind. Let kindness flow through me. Centered in love, a love with no end. Make of my life a melody of love. God is in all of life. We are all one. Open my eyes to see love before me. Radiant love shining through all. Make of my life a melody of love. God is in all of life. We are one. Open my eyes to see love before me. Radiant love shining through all. Make of my life a melody of love. God is in all of life. We are all one. Open my eyes to see love before me. Radiant love shining through all. Make of my life a melody of love. God is in all of life. We are all one.
Good morning, everyone. Just want to share a few thoughts about what we're doing these days. We have coffee with the ministers every Tuesday and Friday at noon. That's on Zoom, and you can get the code to that by emailing Unity of Boulder, unityofboulder.com. And we also have that same fellowship with the ministers, which is just a discussion between everyone that Zooms in. We have the same fellowship following the second service every Sunday, which will take place today as well at about 10 minutes after 12. Also want to remind you that we have Saturday service at 5 o'clock with Rev.Jack Groveland. And we always have our Sunday services at 9 a.m. with myself and my wife Norma, and then followed by Reverend Cintisha Shadle, who really shares from the depth of spiritual understanding as it relates to someone raising a family in the world. So we have all of that for you every week. I would ask you to, on the conclusion of the service, to find the tab, the donation tab, so that you can send a gift to us, a tithe, that will help us to continue our work here in Unity of Boulder. Thank you. I'm going to begin by reading a Bible story. And as I do this, I would ask you to think of the Samaritan woman as the eternal soul of each person. And think of Jesus as the Christ within, or the divine nature or true self that is within each human being. A curious thing has occurred. Not so curious, sometimes it takes place this way, and we simply have to adjust to it. This is from the Gospel of John, chapter 4. So he, Jesus, came to the city of Samaria called Sychar, near the field that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and so Jesus, wearied as he was with his journey, sat down beside the well. It was about the 6th hour. There came a woman of Samaria to draw water. Jesus said to her, "Please give me a drink." For his disciples had gone away into the city to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "How is it that you, a Jew, ask a drink of me, a woman of Samaria? For Jews have no dealings with Samaritans." Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that is saying to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." For the woman said to him, "Sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where do you get that living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it, himself and his sons and his cattle?" Jesus said to her, "Everyone who drinks of this water will thirst again, but whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. The water that I shall give him will become in him a spring of water, welling up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water, that I may not thirst, nor come here to draw." Jesus said to her, "Go call your husband and come here." The woman answered him, "I have no husband." Jesus said to her, "You are right in saying, 'I have no husband,' for you have had 5 husbands, and he who is now with you is not your husband either." The woman said to him, "Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, and you say that in Jerusalem is the place to worship, where all men should worship." Jesus said to her, "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem will you worship the Father. You worship in ignorance. But the hour is coming, and now is, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in the Spirit and the truth, for such the Father seeks to worship him. God is Spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth." The woman said to him, "I know that the Messiah is coming, he who is called Christ. When he comes, he will show us all things." Jesus said to her, "I who speak to you am he." Let's consider the essentials of this story. Can we have this first PowerPoint, please? Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that is saying to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." The woman said to him, "Sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where do you get that living water?" This is the essential truth that all people must ultimately come into. They must evolve and arise into this reality that the physical life in the world is not the complete life. There is more to be had and gained in order to live even this physical life. And to do that, we must turn away from our long-lived perception of our physical existence. We must turn to the hitherto invisible divine self, the Christ within, the nature of God in which we were made in the image and likeness. So it is at some point in the process of living, we must make this turn from the strictly physical awareness of life and seek the higher, what is referred to as mystical consciousness of God. And that is the only way we can find that completion, that fulfillment, that happiness that every human being seeks. You should understand at this point that life is designed for us to become enlightened and completely happy. That's our calling, and that will be fulfilled by this transformation in consciousness. As regards this transformation in consciousness, let me share this with you. This ecstatic declaration from Solomon regarding personal transformation. This is from the Odes of Solomon. I was crowned by my God. My crown is living. I received the face and the fashion of a new person, and the thought of truth led me on. I walked after it and did not wander. And all that have seen me were amazed, and I was regarded by them as a new person. And he who knew and brought me up is the Most High in all his perfection, and he glorified me by his kindness and raised my thoughts to the height of his truth. And from thence he gave me the way of his precepts and opened the doors that were closed to my understanding. So I'll read the second part again. And he who knew and brought me up to the Most High in all his perfection, and he glorified me with his kindness and raised my thoughts to the height of his truth. And from thence he gave me the way of his precepts and opened the doors that were closed to my understanding. As we seek to understand the story that we are sharing now, we can see clearly that the story juxtaposes the physical awareness of life being represented by the woman and the spiritual awareness being represented by Jesus, who again, I say, will come to reveal himself as the Christ within. So we see that the Bible writer is attempting to bring us into this higher level of understanding just with this story. And clearly, the reader of this story is being drawn higher, just as the woman from Sychar is being drawn higher in her understanding. For she seeks to understand, but she's still operating from the physical perspective of life. When she says to the master of life, "You have nothing to draw with. You have no bucket with a rope in order to draw from this well or any well. Where do you get this living water?" Here we're moving toward the mystical consciousness. For if we open ourselves to that which has been possibly invisible to us for all the days that we have lived our physical experience, if we open ourselves, it will be revealed to us that there is a full and complete energy that comes from the divine, that energizes us, heals us, gives us insight, and brings us into a whole new level of awareness. She says to him, "Are you greater than my father Jacob, our father Jacob, who gave us this well, and his sons did drink from it, and his cattle did drink from it?" Jacob was a historic figure in the Old Testament of the Jews. He was devoted to God. But you see, she is seeking to understand life from someone who has been long dead. And we tend to do that as well. We seek to look back at all of those that came into the divine consciousness, became enlightened, and we look upon their works and we read their works hoping that we can intellectually grasp what it is they have found. But in truth, we cannot, because all of that is still belonging to someone else. What must occur, we can be inspired by all that is past, but we must find that way where we turn within to seek the divine truth and have the divine awareness and experience open up within us, then we will know the truth, how to live effectively, beautifully, joyfully. And to this idea of seeking in the past, Jesus says this. Can we have the next PowerPoint, please? Jesus said to her, "Everyone who drinks of this water will thirst again, but whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. The water that I shall give him will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water, that I may not thirst, nor come here to draw." Anyone trying to find life, truth, and the happiness that every human being seeks, first seeks from those that went before us. They seek the authority figures who claimed to have found the divine awareness or the truth of God. But as I said, this must become personal. The experience is one of personal transformation for each person that seriously seeks to know the life that he is living or she is living in an enlightened way, that it can be lived from the enlightened perspective. And that's what we are looking at here. Only the living water of the ever-present Christ in each of us can bring that divine awareness welling up within us and bring us into an understanding of the inner eternality of life, so that we can see beyond this limited perspective that we see through the physical body. And Jesus is going to bring that out now in this next idea. Of course, the woman wants to have this living water. But then Jesus says to her, can we have this next PowerPoint, please? And Jesus said to her, "Go call your husband and come here." The woman answered him, "I have no husband." Jesus said to her, "You are right in saying, 'I have no husband,' for you have had 5 husbands, and he who you now have is not your husband. This you said truly." You see here that there's a complete departure from the physical into the metaphysical. For honestly speaking, her 5 husbands are the 5 senses. And now he's speaking to all of us who would be reading this story. And the one you have now, the one that has come out of that 5-sense perception, is not your husband. It is your illusionary idea of self, the ego-centered concept of your separate body-mind in a world of separate phenomena. That is now to be transcended. In other words, up until this point, up until we enter into this faithful idea of turning within to seek the presence of the living divine self, our true self, until we enter into that, we will have been seeking to find completion, or in this story, a husband, a soulmate, to find completion in things outside of us. Through the sensory apparatus, we try to navigate our lives and find fulfillment and completion, but it cannot be done because we are not strictly physical human beings in a world of physical phenomena that is separate from us. We are divine beings going through a physical human experience, seeking to understand how to transcend the limited sense perception and live an enlightened awareness, and the body thereby becomes the servant of all. So now we see that The woman who represents the eternal soul of each human being is being brought into an understanding that is necessary for each of us to grasp. And it goes like this. I will read it to you. Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, and you say that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship. Jesus said to her, Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem will you worship the Father. You worship in ignorance, but the hour is coming, and now is, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for such the Father seeks to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth. The woman said to him, I know that the Messiah is coming, he who is called Christ. When he comes, he will show us all things. Jesus said to her, I who speak to you am he. And this is the Christ that will speak to anyone who turns within to find their own relationship, one-on-one with our Creator, the living God. And I will explain this to you, how to get into this divine level of consciousness. To transcend the strictly physical awareness, we must turn within in daily meditation. Thus we acquire the awakening Christ consciousness. And we can carry this truth with us into our everyday lives by being mindful to think and act toward all others the way we would have them act toward us. Bring that close, deep within you. This is the essential, living, enlightened nature. Being mindful to think and act toward all others the way you would want them to think and act toward you, because in truth, they are one with you. In truth, everything you look upon is God that is one with you. And coming into that awareness, living in such consciousness as to be forgiving, kind, considerate of everything you look upon, will bring you a life so truly worth living that you will live in constant peace of mind and joy. This is the journey, the destiny of every human being. But it is a matter of choosing to seek within yourself, through spiritual practice, your own soul self, the living Christ. We will do that together. We will participate now in meditation. If you don't have a particular meditation technique, you can use this mantra. Take it to heart. Gently focus your awareness upon it. Everything I look upon, everything I see is only God looking back at me. as we go forth from this meditation, let us go forth with a determination to practice the presence of God in everyone, in every place, under every condition, so that we carry this practice into the world, being mindful to only think and act in relation to all others as we would have them think and act toward us. For we are one, and we shall see how that comes to pass in all of our relationships, in which we will then find happiness, peace, joy, insight, and love. To this, then, let us go forth saying, thank you and amen. Just a brief reminder that we have these minister meetings where you can discuss with us every Tuesday and Friday at noon. And following the second service with Reverend Santisha, we will have the same meeting with the ministers around 12:05, 12:10 today. And again, we have a Saturday afternoon service at 5, and that's led by Reverend Shad Groveland. He also has a meditation service on Mondays at 5:30. We have a Wednesday evening meditation at 7 that you can tune into and share. Remember also, we're operating with the full expenditures we always had. And we ask you to find the tab on the screen that says donate, and just send us a gift, a tithe, that will help us continue our spiritual work. Thank you.